Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. I'm Sarah Vantine here with Ted Ings. Today we have a very special conversation with Steve Thompson. And Ted, I'm looking forward to what we're going to discuss today.
Sarah, I am as well. A long time in coming. Steve Thompson, he's the president of Integrity Cost Consulting. Steve, welcome to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Yes, thank you so much. I've been looking forward to this for a while.
It was great to see you in New York. You came to our World Trade Center event, and I know you have been busy finding efficiencies for dealers for a long time.
Right.
So appreciate you being here. And Sarah and I, we have some questions we want to ask you about
Okay.
a lot of the work you do for dealers.
Sounds good.
So, Steve, to jump right into it, who is Integrity Cost Consulting?
Yeah, great question. So Integrity Cost Consulting, we're a group of experts in cost verification and recovery. We have decades of experience in four core expense areas: utilities, telecom, industrial laundry, and waste disposal. So there's about 24 of us in total right now, and there's anywhere from, we have subject matter experts in each of those four core areas of expense. Every one of those auditors and experts, they have at least 20 years experience in that industry, so they know what questions to ask, where to look, and maybe what's more important is what's possible, because a lot of organizations don't know what's possible. It's kind of like your insurance. It's like you don't know, it's a big ticket item, big expense, but until you work with a broker or an insurance expert, you really don't know what you don't know until you talk to them. And that's kind of what we're doing. Our goal when we work with a client is to ensure that they're being charged accurately by their vendors and paying the least amount possible. And we do that with our subject matter expertise, our decades of experience, our proprietary software. So we have software that basically looks at invoices, compares them to the contracts to ensure that they're being charged accurately based on the contracted terms. And then we have a vast benchmarking database. So we know what someone in Syracuse, New York is supposed to pay for certain things versus someone in San Diego, California. We know that pretty quick. And we come back to, I also want to mention, we work on a performance basis, an objective basis. We're unbiased. We don't work for vendors. We work for our clients, and our goals are aligned with our clients. They don't want to spend more than they need to, and that's what our goal is, to make sure that they're being cost efficient and not being overcharged.
So in those four areas you mentioned, Steve, potentially there's a lot of savings out there that you're an expert at looking for and looking at and can help dealers with their business.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I mean, and these are not, I'm going to throw some percentages, and this is, some people might say this is ridiculous, but it's what we found. On average, for industrial laundry, about 37% savings, plus refunds. You can also get refunds for I'd like to say over 95% of these invoices contain errors and or overcharges.
Really?
Oh yeah. And then trash and recycling, not as many errors, but just the rates that organizations and dealers are paying, over probably 33% higher than they should on average.
Wow.
Yeah. So those two categories, the waste and industrial laundry, those are significant opportunities for dealerships to improve their bottom line, improve their profit.
So let's talk a little bit about how you help dealers. You come in, you know what to look for. Okay. You're an expert at that. And are there any other things that raise red flags along the way that you may not have come in looking for that you inadvertently find?
I think one of the issues that we find almost every time is that, especially if someone has multiple locations, they're supposed to have a master service agreement with their vendor. It's supposed to cover all of the locations. Rarely do we find where every location is being charged the same price. So that's like a uniform. That's a universal problem, and we correct that. We're not only looking for errors and overcharges, but we also look for ways to optimize their service levels, especially like for waste disposal. Let's say their waste is being picked up 4 times per week. Maybe it should only be 3 times, or should be 2 times, right? So we're trying to optimize service levels and optimize their costs at the same time. And one thing I did forget to mention is so we do all this work up front, find the errors, overcharges, procure new contracts, implement any changes that the dealership would want us to do. But then we also monitor their charges going forward. So we're going to ensure that they're being charged accurately and cost efficiently going forward. And also we do that so we can validate the savings that we said that they'd expect. So that monitoring piece, that last piece is pretty important because a lot of organizations get into that trouble because no one is monitoring these expenses,
Sure.
right? They're signing the agreement, setting it and forgetting it type thing.
And Steve, you also, I would imagine, help the dealer get credited for the
Oh,
omissions that you find.
100%. Yes. Yeah. Not so I'd probably say in 40% of our engagements, there's going to be a refund. Not all the time,
Hmm.
but it's possible. It's very possible, especially in industrial laundry. There's a high likelihood of refunds. But if you look at just an overall financial benefit to the organization, I'd say over 95% of the time we'll find something to improve, find ways to improve their profit.
Steve, this is really fascinating. And I'm just thinking about some of the dealerships, I mean, across the country that Ted and I have visited. And some of these operations, I mean, hundreds of employees, plus all of the different services that have to go into making every single day possible for their customers. This is a lot of work. So I'm curious, tell us how, you got started with integrity cost consulting and your background specifically.
Yeah, you're exactly right, Sarah. So basically, I have an accounting background. Went to school, have an accounting degree, and my first job was a cost analyst for a paper manufacturer in North Carolina. And what I try to do is justify my salary every year, and I try to find savings to justify my salary. So this is back in 1992, so the salary wasn't very high, right? But anyways, it's all relative. So I would try to. I just looked at the phone bill, and I said, if I can find, $30,000 in savings, in the phone bill is like, okay, I justify my existence for at least 1 year. And so as I started looking at these things for my employer, these expenses, trying to find savings, I realized, and I thought I was pretty resourceful. It's like, if there's an error, if there's overcharge, I'll find it, right? But I quickly found out I was not an expert in phone bills, right, at the time, right? I was an expert in, costing out production runs and that sort of thing, but I was not an expert in some of these expense areas, these service-based expenses. And
Yeah.
so throughout my career, I ran into this gentleman who owned an invoice auditing business. And after I met with him, I just realized, like, wow, there's just so many opportunities for cost reduction and for cost to get out of control in these areas: utilities, telecom, waste, industrial laundry. You really have to understand the cost drivers and the variables that go into what makes the vendor charge what they do. Right? There's just so many different factors. And like you said, sir, this takes a lot of time, but over
Sure.
10 years or whatever that I've been in business, we have a process in place where we need very minimal information from the dealership. We just need like the last month's invoices and their contracts. And then we do all the work in the background and come back to them and show them where their cost leaks are, cash flow leaks are. And then we just fix them.
So that leads to my next question, because dealers are busy, they're juggling a lot of things. What kind of effort is required to help them work with you?
Yeah, I guess I kind of jumped in there. So yeah, pretty much, like I said, we need a very minimal amount of effort. I'm hoping that, depending on the size of the organization and how well their documents are organized, if they're centralized or whatever, we're hoping they can spend maybe 2 hours at the most to get us what we need to perform our analysis and come back with our recommendations. So we just need the most recent month's invoices and the contracts associated with those invoices, if there are any. And then we pretty much do everything in the background. And
That's
then,
incredible.
and they're not, and I should say this too, when we come back to them with our recommendations, they don't have to authorize us to do that. They can say no, but it's very rare that someone would say no because there's no
Sure.
change to operations, there's no change to vendors, they're just going to pay less.
Steve, I imagine you mentioned, 4 key places that you really help dealerships and fixed operations. But I imagine, could you share with us maybe a story or a time with a dealership where, this has happened recently and what the result was?
Yeah, yeah. So just recently, we started working with a client, and they signed an agreement with their vendor, as an industrial laundry vendor, in January of this year, 2025. We engaged with them in June of 2025. So 6 months in, and the vendor already started billing them different than what was in the contract.
Wow.
They were supposed to have price protection for 12 months. In 6 months, they already had a 7% increase. So, and that was mind blowing to the dealership because it's like, how can this be? We just signed it, right?
Yeah.
So, and then in addition to that, there were items that they were being invoiced for that weren't even in the contract. So we call them non-negotiated items. And the problem with those are if they're not in a contract, they can charge whatever they want, right?
Yeah.
Because there's no contract. Because I run into dealerships. This dealership says, "Oh no, we don't want a contract. We don't need one." It's like you actually do want one because that's how you're protected from price increases and all these
Sure.
extra items being charged on your invoices. They're constantly trying to add items to your bill, right? The more items they can drop off to you at your location, the more they can charge you. So someone has to be paying attention, and we can help them do that because
Mhm.
it does take a lot of time. And it's a weekly invoice too in industrial laundry. It's a weekly invoice, and you think you miss 1 or 2 months, that's you're 8 weeks behind, right? And monitoring these invoices, but we can do that pretty seamlessly. We have new software where we can pretty much scan their invoices and make sure that they're being charged accurately.
It's incredible stuff, Ted. I'm thinking of so many different ways. I mean, this optimizes a lot for, and it makes the controller very happy, it sounds like, too.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, it doesn't cost them anything, right? There's no financial risk to them except for the
Okay.
2 hours, the 2 hours up front. They need to have, someone needs to spend 2 hours to get us what we need. But other than that, um, it's pretty seamless to them. And while they're working on other priorities and trying to increase their revenue, we're working in the background trying to reduce their costs.
And you do this remotely primarily, Steve?
Yes, 100%. Yeah, yeah. Actually, our auditors are pretty much all over the country too. They're not, they're scattered.
So for our audience, our dealers watching today, based on your experience in automotive, Steve, what percentage of business do you think are being billed in error or overcharged right now for service-based expenses, like you're talking about industrial laundry, waste disposal, and so on?
Yeah, I can confidently say over 95%.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean that's been the average for the last 11
Okay.
years, and I don't expect. I mean, um, it's just what we found, and I honestly believe billions of dollars are being wasted across the country on these expenses every year. People, organizations just don't know. They don't know what to ask. What's possible. Like I said earlier, um, and so unless you have the benchmarking data, software to monitor these things, the costs will get out of control.
Sarah, he's like a detective. He knows what to look for.
That's right. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Steve, I mean, this is really incredible pieces for a dealership. And I think, in a day where every cent on the balance sheet matters,
Matters.
this is a way to recoup some of the expenses that they may not even realize they have.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's a great way for them to add money to their bottom line at, increase profit pretty seamlessly with, someone else doing it, doing the work for them.
All right. Steve, for our audience watching today who has questions specific to their situation and
Mhm.
may want to reach out to you, find out more about you, what's the best way for them to take the next step, Steve?
Yeah. The best way they can find out more information at integritycostconsulting.com, or they
Okay.
can call or text me 315-935-9379, right at the bottom of the screen there. Um, you reach out. I mean, I'll get back to you within 24 hours, if not right away. Depends.
Yep. He's
But
quick. I know
yeah,
that.
yeah.
All right,
No,
you
but
can see
I
the
look forward to
information.
hearing from people.
You can see the information at the bottom of the ticker. I was going to say, Sarah.
Okay.
Yes. And so if anyone wants more information about integrity cost consulting, please reach out to Steve directly. He also has his cell. You can call or text him. It's on the ticker below, and email him as well.
And pretty good odds he's going to find something. All right. So,
I think so. I think so.
all right. A very worthwhile phone call or email. Steve Thompson, Integrity Cost Consulting. Thank you for all you do for the industry. Sarah, I'd like to invite Steve back, and let's maybe at the next event talk about some of the things he's found for Fixed Ops Roundtable dealers and get some of them involved in the conversation as well with their peers.
That'd be great.
Everybody, Steve Thompson, Integrity Cost Consulting, with us here today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.